Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Tuesday, August the 19th, 2025. And on the show tonight, they're selling our blood to foreign pharmaceutical companies. Canadian Blood Services, it's in you to give. I used to do the commercials for them years and years and years ago. Canadian Blood Services, it's in you to give. And they were national commercials. And I used to have such great faith in our institutions. And Canadian Blood Services, well, not a government institution, is still kind of an institution, wouldn't you say? We'll go more into that later on. Pierre Poilievre won in a landslide last night in Alberta. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's say some hellos. Roxanne. I know I'm the first one to ever sing that to you. Roxanne is watching on YouTube this evening. Hello, Shauna Vision watching on Twitch, the only Twitch viewer that we have. And sometimes I feel bad that he's alone over there. And sometimes I say or think about saying, you know, guys, maybe it's time that 2 or 3 of you go over to Twitch, find my channel over there, and keep the guy company. And again, maybe he likes it like that. Maybe he likes it like that, or else he would be on Facebook or X or YouTube or Rumble or one of the other bigger platforms. Right? Right, Shano Vision? Hello, Mireille and Roy in Sechelt, British Columbia. Deborah's watching tonight. Janet's on Facebook. Hello, Brenda, Audrey, Jen, Ken, Lorangel in Crossfield, Alberta. Hello, Lance. Ray is watching with Patty from Norwich, Ontario on YouTube. Hello, Shelley and Larry and Sharon and Dean in Lindsay, Ontario. Oh, I think we have a story from Lindsay coming up for you guys tonight regarding a guy who was awakened in the middle of the night by an intruder in his home. You're not going to believe what happened to this guy. Over on Rumble, who's watching on Rumble tonight? Hello, World Peace and Vilma and Lexus 400 and Stump Slayer and Notable and Daisy May 39 and Bubble 77217 and Dog Park Lady, all you fantastic folks over on Rumble. The Shadow at Night live stream, you guys, begins in exactly, hang on just a second, got to find the thing, exactly 30 seconds. Gary says, Shadow, I got to say you play the best music. I tune in just to hear that. You know, my son is responsible for a lot of that. He writes and records a lot of stuff that's non-copyright. You can find on all of the big social media platforms. So yeah, you can thank him for that. All right, let's begin the show. Pierre Poilievre won in a landslide last night, Battle River-Crowfoot. 80% of the vote. He gave a victory speech after it was announced last night in the riding. And this is about 4.5 minutes. And when I was watching this earlier today, you guys, I thought, I got to edit this down. It's too long. And then I went, no, wait a minute. Hold on just a second. Did I catch a smidgen of emotion there? And that's what this speech is all about. So tell me what you see in this guy. And if you can, please try to remove any previous ideas of who he might be. And the only reason I say that is just to give yourself a fair perspective as we watch this, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Love the people of Battle River-Crowfoot. They're the kind of, what you see is what you get. Give you the shirt off their back. Tell it like it is. Common sense people. They reinforce. I love you too. Thank you very much. I love you. And they reinforced a lot of lessons that all of us in politics have to learn and relearn again. Humility and hard work, loyalty and love. You see the people in these communities, they fight their own battles.
I got to stop this for just a second and ask a simple question. Why do those of you in politics have to learn and relearn humility again? Can't you just learn it once? Okay, I'm done. Rant over.
Battles, but they're always ready to stop and help a neighbor or a friend. They know how to stretch a dollar, and most of all, they know, in the words of the great Paul Harvey, how to bail together a family with the soft, strong bonds of sharing. They reminded me of all of these things, and they also reminded me that the road to success is never a straight line. And most of all, you should never give up in hard times. That whenever hardship strikes, you need to stand up and keep on going. And that if you care about something, you don't give up on it when things get difficult or you suffer a setback. These stories that were on the faces of the people I met, the woman suffering from cancer who had just overcome days of radiation treatment, who showed up at my town hall in Stettler to tell me to keep going. I say to her, you don't give up, so I don't give up. The waitress I met in the same town who told me she also works as a teacher and a ranch hand, but has no money left at the end of the month, somehow having 3 jobs. Because she doesn't give up, I won't give up. Or Patty. Patty, a female prison guard who works at the Drumheller Penitentiary and who was tied up and viciously assaulted by a violent criminal, and told me that she wasn't afraid because she was too busy thinking about the job that she had to do to protect her fellow prison guards. My message to her is, you don't give up, so I don't give up. To Bill Bauer. To Bill Bauer, who turned 100 years old in Acme. He was born and raised in a sod hut in rural Saskatchewan and lived through the Dust Bowl and the Depression, all to move to Alberta and start generation after generation of family here in this wonderful region. Because he doesn't give up, I don't give up. To the great people of the special areas whose ancestors were told a century ago, including Damien's great-grandparents, that they'd never be able to farm on that land. Too tough and too dry. And yet, on the homestead signs that you drive by on the highway, those old names are still there, and their great-great-grandchildren are still making those fields blossom. They never gave up, so I will never give up. To the great... Because as my mother, who's here today, taught me, when you get knocked down, you get up and you keep on going. If you believe in what you're doing, you march forward. And so I say to all of the people, not just in the great region of Battle River-Crowfoot, but right across this country, to anyone who has been knocked down, but has got back up and kept on going, you haven't given up, so I won't give up. Together, we will work together, we will fight together, we will sacrifice together to restore the opportunity that our grandparents left for us so that we can leave it for our grandchildren, so that we can once again restore a country that is strong, self-reliant, and sovereign. That is the country we're in this for. That is why we stay united. That is why we go forward. May God keep our land glorious and free. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, going to need your thoughts on that. And the reason I ask is because there's all kinds of theories on this. The uniparty, of course, and then there's the guy who may be captured but doesn't want to be, and he's letting out secrets that we can identify but nobody else can seem to. For example, this little piece from a show I did last week, which is now a reel, which is available on Instagram and Facebook. Watch this.
How could you do the regular work that's required to have a pickup truck in minus 40-degree weather in February? It is simply not possible. What Mark Carney was doing by banning gas vehicles is he is banning the rural way of life. What Mark Carney was doing by banning gas vehicles is he is banning the rural way of life.
What Mark Carney is doing by banning gas vehicles, and it's not an outright ban until 2035, I want to clarify that, is banning the rural way of life. What did he mean by that? I'm looking at your comments right now. You remember what Grant Abraham said yesterday, Mary? Yeah. Here's one from Bob. Self-explanatory, fits right in with the Wildlands Project. But does Poilievre know that? And if he does, why doesn't he just come out and say it instead of making little subtle drops like that? I think he knows way more than he's letting on. And I think he might be just kind of eking it out drop by drop by drop. Leslyn Lewis is not afraid to let it out. And remember, she's a part of the same party. Why is she allowed to talk about the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab and Larry Fink? And Pierre Poilievre is not. Is it because she doesn't get nearly as much attention from the left-wing corporate media as Poilievre does? Or is it because Poilievre says, all right, you do this. You make sure this information gets out there just enough to keep our far-right faction of the party happy? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. And this is something I've always said. The Liberal Party, the NDP, they're completely and totally captured by the cabal, or one of the cabals. But the Conservatives are not. I believe that they may be, 50% captured, or 60 or 70% captured, or 30% captured. I don't know. They are partially captured, but not completely. Why am I saying this? You might be thinking, Shadow needs to cling on to some kind of hope because that's all we've got, the Conservative Party of Canada. Maybe, maybe not. But it certainly doesn't seem to me that people are moving away from their brand loyalty, at least politically. Considering the result we had in Battle River last night, we had a fantastic candidate running there, Brad Abraham of the United Party of Canada. Interestingly, I believe he favors Alberta sovereignty, but I can't speak for Grant. But people still gravitate towards their traditional selections. And I don't know what that's from. Is it from their parents and their parents before them? My dad always voted Conservative, and so I vote Conservative. Is it because they sit down and look at the reality of the situation? I don't know. What I do know is that the common sense, freedom-minded people, according to Daniel Tyree, and I said this last night, Daniel Tyree of the Dominion Society of Canada, believes that all of us who are starting to see through all of the nonsense at different levels are too atomized. We are not together, and we need, all of us need to be able to share some kind of connection with each other so we can stand together in the face of this nonsense and this nightmare. Let's be honest. Instead, what tends to happen is bickering on the common sense side, because freedom-minded people do that, and we forget about the monster that is looming right above us, which is, in this case, Mark Carney. Not just because he's the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister, but because of all of his other connections. Read his book. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Pierre's got a lot of work to do when he returns to the House of Commons next month, and you can bet he's going to do it, at least what his party handlers tell him he can do and what the focus groups tell him he can do. I told you yesterday about Air Canada and the flight attendants not having an agreement. Well, today they have, and this was about the flight attendants saying, I don't care what the government says. They can order us back to work all they want. We're not going back. And so today, mysteriously, they have reached a tentative deal to end the strike. Now, there's a lot of speculation going on out there. Why did this happen so suddenly? Did the government get involved and say, well, you're making us look really bad here. We've got to end this and end this fast. And I suppose that's true. But then there's other people out there speculating, no, this has got Mark Carney's fingerprints all over it. Does Brookfield have any shares in Air Canada? And we see online, look at this. A woman named Suzanne on X said Brookfield owns about 30 million shares of Air Canada stock. This will be interesting for Mark Carney. Josh Ryan is the guy who originally posted this. According to, you know how sometimes when you're looking around on Google, an AI overview will come up first? Okay, so I did that on all the different search platforms today. And Google was the first one I went to. And I typed this very thing in. And they said, no, there is no sign that Brookfield Asset Management owns any shares of Air Canada. You'd have to go deeper. But this AI overview is different from the same source. Yes, Brookfield Asset Management owns Air Canada stocks. They say specifically Brookfield Asset Management is listed among the top institutional holders of Air Canada stock, holding 30,965,748 shares as of March 30th of this year, representing 2.03% of the total outstanding shares. I couldn't find that anywhere. This guy found it on Google, unless they switched it, which is a possibility also. Air Canada's ownership structure is a blend of institutional, retail, and individual investors. Fintel reports that institutional investors, blah, 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 blah. So, is Mark Carney doing a conflict of interest here and nobody's going to be the wiser? Is it something that Pierre Poilievre will bring up in the House of Commons? Is it nothing at all? I guess we'll soon see. Breaking story from Dan Mazur, who is an MP for the Conservative Party of Canada. He says conservatives are calling for an investigation into foreign corporations cashing in on Canadians' blood. What? You ever given blood? I've given blood. And my thought is always that, well, my blood is going to go help somebody in a car crash or having a major operation or something like that. I never dreamed for 1 second that my blood would be sold to a foreign pharmaceutical company. I give my blood, and I haven't done it lately. Let's be honest. I don't want to go near a needle, and it's not because I'm afraid of them. The vaccine and all that. But anyway, you never think for 1 second that they're going to sell your blood to some pharmaceutical company. Well, the Globe and Mail has reported that Spanish drug maker Grifols is selling products made with plasma obtained from Canadian blood donations, despite Canadian Blood Services promising that nothing would be sold offshore. Now we've uncovered that Brookfield Asset Management has been aggressively trying to buy Grifols over the last year. Carney is personally invested in Brookfield and could personally profit if a takeover happens. Canadians' blood donation should save lives here, not line the pockets of foreign corporations or the Prime Minister. Conservatives are demanding the Health Committee launch an immediate investigation. And there is the letter below, which pretty much says the same thing I just told you. So, what is Canadian Blood Services? Is it a private entity? That was my first thought. Can they go ahead and just do this? Are they duping everybody? Is it like the Fed in the United States? Everybody thinks that's a government entity. The Federal Reserve, it's not. It's private investment banker fund. Well, no, the AI overview says here, Canadian Blood Services is not a private entity. It's a nonprofit charitable organization that operates independently from government, but it is publicly funded and regulated by Health Canada. This makes it look worse for Carney, don't you think? Most of its financial support comes from provincial and territorial governments. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one as well. As I was perusing X, my normal morning is wake up and immediately, what did I miss in the news last night? What did I miss in the news? So I caught this first thing in the morning as I was going through X. Back in June, this is from CSIS. This is our National Intelligence Agency. CSIS, you guys know? Back in June, CSIS launched its Pride season celebrations with a few guest speakers. Thanks to the talented two-spirit hoop dancer Makina Rankin-Gearin, the hilarious Canadian comedian Ava Val, and inspirational public servant David Da Silva. And this is what they're doing. As apparently Canadian Blood Services is selling our blood to foreign pharmaceutical companies, these guys are busy celebrating Pride, and they're for visiting, performing, and speaking at CSIS NHQ. And there we go. There's the three lovely people. CSIS Pride Network. I have lost all faith in our national institutions. And I want all my tax, every cent in tax money I have ever paid, I want it back plus interest, and you should feel the same way. Christine Van Geyn is the litigation director for the Canadian Constitution Foundation, and she was on today talking about this relatively new concept. It's not brand new, it's relatively new, but I never heard it couched like this before. I like it. It's a new term. It's called safetyism. It's overboard. And here she is talking about it.
A special report that has been put out on what you refer to as safetyism and how the state/government is now using safetyism and it could start trampling our rights. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so safetyism refers to a cultural or even institution or government tendency to prioritize physical and even emotional safety above all other values, at the expense of those other values, including freedom, personal development, open debate, and discourse. And look, safety is, of course, important, but Canadian governments have exploited emergencies or the sense of danger historically in the most grotesque ways. They've used it, the rationale of safety, to shut down Sean Foyt, to lock down the forests in Nova Scotia. They've used it to justify censorship, surveillance, or restrictions on basic freedoms, all in the name of protecting people from discomfort or offense or some type of perceived risk or harm. And it's this culture where no risk is tolerable whatsoever. That cellophane wrapper in the woods is apparently so dangerous that you're not allowed to walk your dog in the forest. So in this report, Safety Above All, which you can download for free at the ccf.ca/safetyism, we go through the historic instances where governments have overreached and eroded and violated civil liberties in the name of safety. And they're really disturbing examples, from the invocation of the War Measures Act in response to the October crisis in 1970, where habeas corpus was suspended, where homes were searched without warrants, where people were arrested and detained incommunicado for weeks. There was the detainment of and internment of Japanese Canadians in 1942 following Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. And Japanese Canadians were rounded up across the country and put into shacks in interior BC without adequate heating. Their property was seized by the government and sold, and then that money was used to finance their own internment, because the government told people that Japanese Canadians were too dangerous because of this, inaccurate risk view that they would be spying on Canadians. So they all had to be proactively put into these internment camps. There was the G20 mass arrests. There's the practice of random vehicle stops, where police, in the name of public safety, have the power to pull over any driver on the road. Which is often administered in a way that is racially biased. There was the long gun registry, which was justified in the name of safety and essentially created the risk of paper-based criminalization of lawful gun owners. It was used to justify, to go full circle in this conversation, the Justin Trudeau invocation of the Emergencies Act. So when government says, this is for your own good, you need to be very, very wary of those types of claims, because their goal is often going to operate in a way that really erodes our basic freedoms.
What the heck happened here? What's ghost in the machine? So when did this start? This safetyism thing. It wasn't with COVID. When was it? Can we go all the way back to the 1980s here? Because I remember my dad talking with his two sisters and a couple of uncles at a family dinner one night when they were starting to talk about, and I think this is early 80s, maybe even late 70s. They were starting to talk about making seatbelts mandatory. Now, of course, it's just, I was about to say common sense, common knowledge that you put your seatbelt on because it's against the law. There's only one state in the United States, by the way, where seatbelts are not mandatory. All the other 49 states and all of the provinces and territories of Canada, they are mandatory. You have to wear a seatbelt. Why? Why exactly did the government make these things mandatory? There have been constitutional battles over it in the United States and in Canada. And the courts have always sided on the government side. Yes, of course, it's for your safety. Why do you care about my safety when it comes to seatbelts or bike helmets for that matter? Why do you care? Put on a helmet. You never know what's going to happen. So you go flying from your bike at 75 miles an hour and hit a tree dead on. You think that helmet's going to help much? Or a curb? Or steel poles? You think that helmet, that's going to stop you from dying? Probably not. And something else I find ridiculous about the seatbelt laws. Why are there still cigarettes available? Why can people still smoke? Why can people still drink? Why can people still eat all that terrible junk food? I mean, that's more apt to kill you than a car crash, no? Maybe it takes longer. Maybe it's not as sensational sounding in the headlines on the left-wing corporate media. I don't know. But that, I believe that was probably, and maybe it goes further back. Maybe you can find something else that I missed or forgot about from the 60s or 70s that denotes the beginning of safetyism, which is a term we should all be using now, ad nauseum. Safetyism. It's just nothing but safetyism. The government's going too far. It's safetyism. They're treating us like children. We're going to go more into this on the extension on shadowdavis.com tonight for the all access Nighthawks. And I encourage you to become a member. It's like $13 for a month. You get all the extra content and you get the camaraderie of the group back there. They are a bunch of fantastic people and they always talk about some excellent things while we're watching the content, while we're providing the content in the extension at shadowdavis.com, shadowdavis.com. And the store is almost ready to go. I've got hoodies, I've got toques, I've got hats, t-shirts, sweatshirts, you name it. So look, oh, hello, Donatella. How you doing? She's in the Shadow at Night community, by the way. Right now, there's a lot of people over there on Telegram in the Shadow at Night community watching the show and waiting for the extension. So I mentioned this briefly last night, and I responded to it online, and then a few things have happened today, and we're going to talk more about this tomorrow night. You know our friend Mark Friesen, the Grizzly Patriot. He and I have had some incredible debates on this show over the years. And I respect the hell out of that guy. And we all know that he's had some serious health issues, especially in these past few months. And so his wife, Jan, wrote a Facebook post on his Facebook account a couple of days ago now. And I'm going to read it to you guys. She says, I was finally able to muster up enough strength to write this to all of you. I'm sorry it's taken me this long, but hopefully by what I'm about to tell you, you'll understand why. Thank you so much for reading this, as it's costing a lot to write it. In 2021, my husband, Mark, my kind, generous, loving, stubborn, brilliant husband, got sick. At first, it was just a flu, but quickly it became something else, something darker. Within days, he was fighting for his life on a ventilator, in a coma that lasted nearly 6 agonizing weeks. I was robbed of staying at his bedside as I was super sick myself, and then they transported him to Toronto, something that might as well have been a million miles away. But through FaceTime, I was whispering to him, through the hum of machines that kept him alive, praying to our Almighty Father, with the help from all of you, and somehow miraculously he survived. He came back to me, to his kids, to all of us. For a while, we thought the worst was behind us. He laughed again. We made plans again. We started piecing our lives back together, grateful for every breath, every sunrise, every ordinary moment. He started traveling to see all of you again with the same purpose, but something wasn't right. And looking back now, I see the signs were there. The odd conversations, the confusion, the changes in behavior that I brushed off as stress or fatigue from everything his strong body had been through. And I told myself he just needed more time. We all did. I'm skipping ahead to February of 2025 when the diagnosis came. Frontal temporal dementia. God, I've read this I don't know how many times. The words hit like a wrecking ball, even though at this point something had been off for so many months. A new hospital stay in July of last year progressed his condition, and we thought at first it was one or several microstrokes. Things just weren't adding up. This was a progressive loss of the very parts of him that made him him. His intelligence, his humor, his deep sense of purpose, all beginning to fade. This type of dementia attacks the personality and behavior first, memory last. He doesn't talk much anymore, and he has a hard time grasping even the simplest things. He's very emotional. He's either sad or crying or angry or cussing, and of course, I'm the one who has to endure it all. It's draining, to say the least. Mark has always been a man of service. Everything he did for others, for his family, for his community, for his country. He had dreams. I stood by him through all of them. That was my way of contributing. But now that man, the one who lifted everyone around him, is a shadow of all that. Not even that. He is a shadow of a shadow. We've lost almost everything just trying to get by. We've sold our belongings piece by piece, trading memories for months of mortgages, furniture, for medicine, supplements, dreams for necessities. I applied for disability for him months ago. Still, we've heard nothing back. The system moves slow. Even as my husband disappears before my eyes, one painful day at a time. While I'm researching and doing what I can to find the cause to see if it can possibly be reversed or at least stopped, I can't work because I can't leave him alone for long. I'm his caretaker now, his advocate, his everything. And even though I do it out of love, I won't lie. It's exhausting. It's terrifying. It's very isolating. I feel like I'm living inside of a horror movie in slow motion, watching the man I love transform and slip away from me. Mark always believed in fighting for what was right. He believed in honor, in courage, in standing tall, even when it hurt. Now he can't stand tall anymore. And I'm the one doing the fighting for him, for us, trying to navigate a system that should have been there but isn't. And I'm not as resourceful as he was. I don't share any of this for pity. I share this because so many people love Mark and have been wondering where he is and how he's doing, and you all deserve to know. And somewhere out there, someone else is going through the same thing, wondering how it all went so wrong so fast. And I want them to know they're not alone. We're still here. We still love. We still fight. Even in the darkest moments, I hold on to the memory of who Mark was. And I love him as deeply as I always have. That will never change. Not even dementia can take that from us. To all of you who have given support to us financially over the past 4 years, we want you to know that we truly would not have made it without you. Your generosity has been nothing short of life-saving. So many of you have shown Mark the same kind of love and care that he's always shown others. Anyone who knows him knows he would have given the shirt off his back to help someone in need. And so many of you have shown us that same love. Words fall short in expressing how deeply grateful we are. I'm sorry I haven't been able to fully explain everything that's been going on. There has been many reasons for that, and honestly, it's been hard not to scream it out loud some days. But Mark's understanding of his condition comes and goes. Some days he's aware, other days he says he's fine. It's emotionally exhausting, it's unpredictable, it's a roller coaster. I've always thought of myself as strong, Norwegian-born, Viking blood, but this journey has tested me more than anything in my life. Even the strongest have their limits, and I've felt mine too many times. And I have my own blood family thousands of miles away, and it's really tough because I miss them so much, of course, especially now. I can't even go home to visit as I have no one that can look after Mark and our dogs. Through all of Mark's traveling, live streams, podcasts, and the time he spent away from his family and business, he never once asked people for money. He never monetized his podcasts or live streams like so many others in similar positions often do. He showed up, he did the work, he gave everything he had because he believed in it, not because it paid. Kind people would donate gas money and a little, but to cover costs. His business and our financial situation was suffering greatly because of it, way worse than he would ever admit to me. So when he ended up in the hospital in 2021 and I had to take over everything, I finally saw how bad it was. We had no choice but to file for bankruptcy, shut down the business, sell the house. We have a GoFundMe set up as we wait for Mark's disability. Been waiting 9 months now. And whatever financial help I might be entitled to hopefully come through. At this point, we're getting by on fumes. If anyone still feels moved to help us bridge this gap until we can find a stable, sustainable path forward, it would mean what I said before, simply being able to continue living. This goes on a bit longer. I don't know if I can get through it all, you guys, but there is a GoFundMe on my Facebook page. I shared this post on the Facebook page. So if you want to go and check it out, read the rest of that, and donate what you can, that would be wonderful. Now, I have been in conversation with a woman we've had on the show before. Her name is Leah. She was a school teacher in Saskatchewan who was fired for sharing a Facebook post. And she reached out to me today and said, is there anything we can do, like maybe a fundraiser or something, like an event? And I said, that sounds great. I'll absolutely help in any way that I can. And so tomorrow night, Leah and our friend Dallin are going to come on and hopefully talk more about it. And if you guys are in the Saskatoon area or anywhere in Saskatchewan for that matter, and you want to get involved, or anywhere, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be in Saskatchewan. We would love that. That would be fantastic. Not just for the Friesen family, not for Mark and Jan, but I'm sorry, that's gross. But for all of us, if some of us can get together somehow, you know, in person, that is, man, I've experienced that not as much lately in the last few years, but in the first couple of years of all this nonsense, that was a lifeline for me. And it still is. Just to see some of you, like standing there right in front of me, That is the coolest thing. So maybe we can arrange something like that. We're going to have more on the show tomorrow night. This week, I had pledged to not have any guests on so we could, catch up on all the news that's going around and try and make some sense of it like we do a lot of times, because we had guests on pretty much every night last week. But I think this is really important, and we're going to have Leah and Dallin Leger on tomorrow night to talk more about this. Okay. And there is an e-transfer as well. There's an e-transfer. So there's an e-transfer and a GoFundMe. And again, I shared that on my Facebook page, you guys, for Mark and Jan Friesen. And like I said, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say, you've gotta, because you don't, of course, you don't. But if you know anything about this man, if you ever met him, I met him one time. That was when he was through Winnipeg doing a thing with Laura Lynn. And what a strong speaker, knowledgeable about all of this crap. He was the first guy I ever heard talk about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, all 17 of them. And I was marveling at the knowledge he had. And of course, I had to go dive down the rabbit holes and look them all up. Yeah. So I guess we can continue. I did a highlight of Doug Ford from the show last night, dissing Donald Trump. Like, dude, are you that stupid? Are you that stupid that you want to piss off Donald Trump, like publicly humiliate the man? Do you think that's helping in getting Canada a deal with the United States? Do you think that he's going to make the tariffs worse even? I mean, I wouldn't want to negotiate with a guy who's publicly calling me names all the time and suggesting I'm a fool. I'd make it worse. Wouldn't you think that Mark Carney would maybe take Doug Ford aside? I said this last night, but I'm going to say it again, and say, Doug, shut up. Seriously, you are not helping the situation. And yet here was Doug Ford at a conference this morning, just this morning.
Stop, poking Donald Trump, but we're going to focus on what we can do. So that no matter who the next president is, or whatever the next crisis, we're able to protect our workers, the services the public relies on, and our communities. Not just from President Trump, but from anything that comes our way for decades to come. We need to build a stronger and more resilient and self-reliant economy. We need to make Ontario the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. And we need to do it together, working collaboratively together, working with all levels of government.
Wait a minute, was he just about to start singing there? And we need do. Or did he bumble on the teleprompter?
Competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. And we need to do it together, working collaboratively together, working with all levels of government and Indigenous communities. Over the last few months, that's what our government has been doing.
Okay, some national news for you. City of Hamilton bans Association for Reformed Political Action Canada, ARPA, billboard ad. This is a bit of an old story, like a week and a half, but I missed it before, and I thought, I wonder if you guys know about this. The City of Hamilton has removed an advertisement from a private billboard located on the city-owned right-of-way alongside the Lincoln Alexander Parkway. I'm not familiar with that area, but I know we have several viewers in the Hamilton region who probably are. In a statement issued Friday evening, a couple of Fridays ago now, the mayor stated her office was made aware of a transphobic ad on a billboard. Well, the billboard is not city-owned. It sits on city-leased space, and city advertising rules were not followed. Well, technically, if it's leased from the city, that means you guys have no say in any of this. We've directed Astral Media to remove it and put stronger safeguards in place. Astral Media reviews all advertisements for compliance with the Canadian Code of Advertising Standards before permitting display. The City of Hamilton's advertising policy states it will permit advertisements that comply with this code. However, the city policy also states, notwithstanding any prior approval, the city reserves the absolute right to order the immediate removal or, if necessary, remove any advertising on its property at any time. This is the first reported incident of a Canadian municipality ordering the removal of an advertisement from a private billboard since the Supreme Court of Canada's 2009 Greater Vancouver Transportation Authority decision regarding the charter and advertising in publicly owned spaces. The Association for Reformed Political Action Canada states it paid $18,000 to Astral to display its advertisement for the Let Kids Be Kids campaign. The Let Kids Be campaign. The advertisement displays the text letkidsbe.ca with the word kids styled in larger font with 3 icons representing people behind the text. Below the large text is the message, "Stop Medical Transitions for Minors." The website includes ARPA's viewpoints regarding transgender issues. The advertisement is visible in a YouTube short clip posted by ARPA. The city has not released its reasons for the decision. As a government body, the city's removal must comply with the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and can be appealed to Ontario's Divisional Court. The city is required to provide intelligible reasons for its decision. The last time ARPA appealed the City of Hamilton decision to ban an ad, the city lost due to failure to provide reasons. It's transphobic. Can't you see that? Let kids be. That's transphobic. Oh my God, the nonsense continues. And wait until you see this, people in Lindsay. From left-wing corporate CTV, man arrested after assaulting intruder inside his own home in Lindsay. That's from police there. A man is facing charges after he allegedly assaulted an intruder inside his Lindsay home early yesterday morning. The incident happened at an apartment on Kent Street shortly after 3 a.m. Police say the suspect was asleep when he awoke to find an intruder inside his apartment. Investigators say an altercation ensued, and the intruder sustained serious, life-threatening injuries as a result. Police say the resident, a 44-year-old Lindsay man, was charged with aggravated assault and assault with a weapon following an investigation. I can't even believe this. The intruder, a 41-year-old Lindsay man, was charged with 4 offenses, including possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose and break and enter. Police say the intruder was already wanted at the time of his arrest for unrelated offenses. When released from hospital, he'll be held in custody pending a bail hearing, a news release issued by the Kawartha Lakes Police Service states. This is absolutely unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. Now, getting back to the Conservative Party and how captured are they? 70%, 30%, somewhere between, maybe 100%. And I haven't had a chance, obviously, to read the comments that you guys were writing about Pierre Poilievre from earlier in the show. I'll do that later. Leslyn Lewis warns BlackRock CEO joins Globalist World Economic Forum's leadership team. Leslyn Lewis sounding the alarm after the World Economic Forum tapped Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, as their interim co-chair of their board of directors. Here's a statement from Larry Fink, by the way, and Andre Hoffman, the co-chairs of the World Economic Forum, regarding Klaus Schwab. We told you about this last night. We're honored to take on this leadership role on an interim basis at a pivotal time for the World Economic Forum. As the organization moves into a new chapter, we look ahead with clarity, purpose, and confidence in the forum's enduring mission. Please remember that Larry Fink famously said just a few years ago, and I played the clip on this show over and over and over again, that they must force behaviors. They force behaviors with the ESGs. and DEI. They're forcing this on you. And ultimately, if you want to keep your job, you don't really have much of a choice in the matter, do you? Oh, I guess I had the story on last night about how they cleared Klaus Schwab of all the allegations against him. Because, of course, they did. The World Economic Forum investigated itself. Tulsi Gabbard has removed clearances. Hang on just a second now. You can't do that. From 37 current and former intelligence officials, accusing them of politicizing and manipulating intelligence. 37! Whoa. A DNI memo sent out yesterday included the names of officials who worked at the CIA, NSA, State Department, and National Security Council, including former Obama DNI James Clapper, who Gabbard claimed told officials to compromise normal procedures to rush a 2017 intelligence community assessment related to Russia's influence on the 2016 election. Being entrusted with a security clearance is a privilege, not a right, Gabbard wrote in a post on X. Those in the intelligence community who betrayed their oath to the Constitution and put their own interests ahead of the interests of the American people have broken the sacred trust they promised to uphold. What else have we got here? From Blaze, this is Glenn Beck's thing. Former AG Attorney General Bill Barr has testified he found no dirt on Trump during the Epstein probe. Comer says. The Epstein saga continues as the House Oversight Committee kicks off its questioning of several high-profile figures. Former U.S. Attorney General William Barr, who investigated the death of Jeffrey Epstein during the first Trump administration, appeared for a hearing yesterday morning to give his testimony. Though the hearing was behind closed doors, members of the committee updated reporters about the progress of the hearing. He said that he had never seen anything that would implicate President Trump in any of this, and that he believed if there had been anything pertaining to Trump with respect to the Epstein list, that he felt like Biden would probably have leaked it out. That from James Comer, Republican representative in Kentucky. I have more questions now than I did before going in. Rep. Suhas Subramanian, Democrat from Virginia, told reporters before Comer's remarks, just generally, though, I think the Democratic side is doing most of the heavy lifting. I don't think we're learning much from the questioning of the House Republicans. Here's an interesting one now. Look at this headline from left-wing corporate CTV. Oklahoma to test teachers from New York and California to guard against radical leftist ideology. Of course, that's in quotations. Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain, is going to test teachers from New York and California guarding against this radical leftist ideology. This is hilarious. They're going to require applicants for teacher jobs coming from California and New York. I'm sure there's a few other states they could name as well, to pass an exam that the Republican-dominated state's top education official says is designed to safeguard against radical leftist ideology, but which opponents decry as a mega loyalty test. Ryan, why is this? We're dealing with kids here, for goodness sakes, children. And it's bad enough what the teachers are doing, but some of these wackadoo new age parents are hurting their kids just as badly. We'll get into a video from that, for that in just a second, from a lady who's got a pretty big account on Instagram, something like 300,000 followers. What's her name again? Tanya, the herbalist and coach. She actually dropped a great video the other day. Ryan Walters, Oklahoma's public school superintendent, said Monday that any teacher coming from those two blue states will be required to pass an assessment exam administered by Prager University, an Oklahoma-based conservative nonprofit, before getting a state certification. As long as I'm superintendent, Oklahoma classrooms will be safeguarded from the radical leftist ideology fostered in places like California and New York. I want to move to Oklahoma, where the waving wheat can sure smell sweet. Now, what is it about these parents? I mean, we've seen a lot of parents. It seems as though they want their child to be trans so bad that they start pushing that radical, crazy ideology on them when they're just babies. But then there's a lot of leeway that kids have these days, and in some cases kids are actually the ones running the show. Certainly wasn't like that back in my day. Here is Tanya the herbalist.
Parents aren't parenting anymore. They've handed over the job to their kids and they call it gentle parenting. You've got 4, 10, 16-year-olds running the household, deciding what's right and wrong and how they'll talk and what rules they're going to follow and who they're going to respect. And you're seeing the damage everywhere. These kids grow up without any standards and without correction, without a sense of right and wrong. And they scream at adults. They lie without flinching. They quit when things get hard. And then they spiral the moment life gets too hard for them because they were never shown structure or consequences, never made to sit in discomfort and grow from it. And then you wonder why they're anxious or angry or unmotivated and why they stop listening to you. They were given full control before they can even drive, and you are sabotaging your child's life and future by parenting this way. So now you have a choice. Keep tiptoeing around their emotions or take your role back and lead with them, because if you don't, the world will, and the world doesn't care how sensitive they are, it will crush them.
Interesting. Although I think the world with this safetyism might keep them in a bubble for their entire lives. I mean, you go to work these days, if you say the wrong thing, you're fired because you are not inclusive. What did I say? What did I do? I a microaggression? I misgendered? What? I did what? I came within 2 feet of a person that has a 3-foot bubble. I'm sorry. You don't look sorry to me. There's another microaggression. These people can make up whatever they want. This is the problem. And this is how kids are growing up these days. Now, I'm not a big advocate for corporal punishment, but my dad did smack me across the face a couple of times when I was growing up. Did I learn my lesson? Yep, I sure did. And I think that should be within the purview of parents to do without being reported to Child and Family Services. But that's a freedom thing, right? Donald Trump wants to end mail-in balloting in the United States. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
Continues to work on this, and when Congress comes back to Washington, I'm sure there will be many discussions with our friends on Capitol Hill and also our friends in state legislatures across the country to ensure that we're protecting the integrity of the vote for the American people. And I think Republicans generally, and the president generally, wants to make it easier for Americans to vote and harder for people to cheat in our elections. And it's quite mind-boggling that the Democrat Party could stand in opposition to common sense. He wants to ensure election integrity. There were great efforts that were made in 2024. I won't get ahead of myself for Hatch Act reasons to get ahead for the next election, but I can assure you this is a priority for the president.
Wants to get rid of mail-in voting because that is the best way to cheat. Makes sense to me. And more importantly, voting is a privilege and something that should be cherished as long as it's like real. Right? As long as the vote means something. And if you want to vote, you damn well vote. Now, there could be advanced polls, sure. I don't mind that. But why should we let somebody, I'm going to be in Hawaii for those 2 weeks. I want to mail in. No. You go vote in an advanced poll or you change your vacation date. If you want to vote, then you vote here. Period. Like what Greg said in the comments earlier, I just have to look at my grandkids the wrong way and they settle down. Yeah, man. The dad face. Now, that worked with my kid until he was about 14. And then he realized, I might be able to push him a bit further. But it did work. It worked for a while. Never had to raise a hand. I did one time with him, and he remembers that day. Matter of fact, he talks about that day still as a key turning point in his value system. You can't just do whatever you want, anytime you want, anywhere you want, and get away with it. Basically, what seems to be happening is raising a generation of assholes. And I certainly hope I'm wrong, but I don't know if I am. And fat kids. I mean, I don't mean to insult anybody who's overweight a little bit, but anytime I've been out for the last couple of years, the kids I see, man, they are like fat. They're not getting out. They're not getting exercise. They're eating junk food. Sad state of affairs. Now, this is going to be the last story for tonight before we move to the extension on shadowdavis.com for you all access Nighthawks. And again, I urge you to go ahead and join up. You would be supporting the show so I can keep this thing going, you guys. That's kind of important that I keep this thing going, to me anyway. From the BBC, roundabouts graffitied with St. George flag. Now, you can call me crazy, but that would be akin to the media saying in Canada, roundabouts graffitied with the maple leaf. Graffitied? How can you graffiti anything? How can your national flag or your national symbol be considered graffiti? Well, in England, there's a reason for all of this. This is the flag of England, the St. George flag. It's not the flag of the UK. That's different. This is the flag of England. At least 6 mini roundabouts in Birmingham have been graffitied with red crosses to look like St. George's flags. Graffitied. Roundabouts in the Kings Heath and Yardley Wood areas were painted overnight at the weekend. Well, a video on social media purportedly showed a man daubing others several miles away in Bromsgrove, Worcestershire. It comes as hundreds of St. George's and Union Jack flags flown by lampposts by residents started to be taken down by Birmingham City Council last week, which the authorities said was due to safety concerns. Some residents described the painted traffic islands as vandalism, but others have applauded the emergence of England flags in suburbs across the city. West Midlands Police said it had not received a complaint, but said it would investigate criminal damage if a report was made by the local authority or a member of the public. One woman who lives near a painted roundabout in Woodthorpe described it as sheer wanton vandalism. The council doesn't have the money to fix the potholes, let alone repaint mini islands, but yet they do have the money to come out and take care of these flags that have been graffitied all over the place within 24 hours. A man living close to the same roundabout said it was not patriotic. It just feels like an excuse for xenophobia. Does that dude have eyes? Is he able to see? There are better ways to show pride, ways that are inclusive and respectful, not resorting to vandalism. How is that vandalism? It's your flag, man. In recent weeks, the Union Jack and St. George's Cross have been hung in the Woolley Castle and Northfield areas of Birmingham, which local residents say they were doing in an act of patriotism. But the city council had them taken down and issued a safety plea to residents thinking of attaching the flags to lampposts and other street furniture. It said it was upgrading streetlights to energy-efficient LED lighting, and because of this, had so far removed about 200 banners and flags. Flags have emerged in other areas, including Hollywood, Barnt Green on the Worcestershire border. Some people in Whaley Castle and Northfield areas of Birmingham told BBC they support the flags being flown. One woman said it's patriotic, so I think it's lovely. It represents us, doesn't it? Great Britain? Another woman said, I think they're great. They put a smile on people's faces. They're not doing any harm, just flying in the wind, representing England, which is where we are, obviously. Now, the reasoning for this that I read on X is because of a rash of Palestinian flags that have been raised in cities all across England. And while the government doesn't seem in a hurry to take any of those down at all, they certainly are in a rush to get rid of the St. George's Cross graffiti all over Birmingham. What does that say to you? That's it for the show tonight, you guys. I'm going to give you All Access Nighthawks a choice. Well, we've got time. Maybe we can do it all. But I'll give you guys a choice anyway in the extension on shadowdavis.com. Hopefully, I will see you there in just a couple of minutes. And for the rest of you, I love you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you for tolerating my emotional outburst a little bit earlier. I didn't expect that was going to happen, but it did. So thank you again. I will catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central for another Shadow at Night live stream. Have a great night, and bye for now.